Hello, welcome back to my haunted library. I wanted to share when I did my Secret Santa, I was a little confused about this mug that lovely Danette, the Mistress of Horror, D.L. Tillery, got me. But she told me that when you put hot liquid into it, a vampire appears. And sure enough, a vampire has appeared. I almost wish she hadn't told me because I think it would have been really fun the first time I used this mug and been like, but I might have dropped it and shattered it. But isn't that cool? Every once in a while, I'll get a comment, when are you going to do another VC Andrews video? And today I'm going to do one. So I've picked up on another series, so I'll talk about that in a bit, and I'll timestamp it below if you just come for the VC Andrews. I understand. But I wanted to start off with the Scary Sleepover Weekend prompts that Alex, the Bookubus, has put together. I participated, I think it was last summer, for the Scary Sleepover Weekend. I think it's a wonderful idea. I had a lot of fun. I will link Alex's announcement video below. Next weekend, the 13th through the 15th, there's going to be a Scary Sleepover Weekend. This is part 2, and hopefully it'll continue to be a tradition. And she has a very fun video describing the whole thing. So I wanted to tap into it a little bit and talk about what I plan to read and watch. And this is a good idea for January, the January blues, because Christmas is over, holidays are over, and we're back to the routine, and it gets a little cold. And what's better than just snuggling up with your favorite horror book or movie, which I have actually been doing. Okay, so here we go. Prompt number 1, January blues, which I just mentioned. Read a book with blue on the cover. Well, from watching Alex's video, she mentioned about wolves are part of this. So I happened to find, just by looking through my shorter YA books, because the weekend's not that long of a time, you want to just choose books that you can read in a couple sittings. And I found this Cirque du Freak Vampire Mountain by Darren Shan. I read the first Cirque du Freak book in the series, and I absolutely loved it. It's a YA series about vampires, kids, but it's done in a way that's very, very fun. Lots of fun. I'm not sure where this fits in the series, but I think I can pick it up. I don't think it's going to be that hard to connect with the story. It's nice and short. And what a cool cover. We have blue and we have a wolf. And Vampire Mountain, I guess there's a wolf involved with that. Number 2, winter weather. Read a book set in winter or cold setting. Well, I had already read Ski Weekend, the R.L. Stine book, I think last winter. So I looked at my Nancy Drews, and sure enough, I thought I remembered this one, Mystery at the Ski Jump. Isn't that a great cover? This is the type of Nancy Drews that I collect because these are the ones I read as a kid, the 60s going into the 70s. I'm sure I read this one, but I don't remember it. I scored a whole bunch of Nancy Drews of this time period at a library sale last spring, I think it was, in perfect condition. They weren't library books. They're just, I don't know, someone must have donated them, but absolute perfect condition. So I will read this. I always love to connect with a Nancy Drew. Number 3, new year, read a new to you book. Well, because I was also thinking about wolves, I've just pulled this off my shelf, and I don't know if I've ever read it. I do remember seeing the movie back in the day. This is The Howling, A Terrifying Tale of the Occult by Gary Brandner. Some of those older people like me remember when this came out. And it's nice and short, so yeah. And this is an old paperback from Hell copy I've had for a while. A blood-chilling novel in the shocking tradition of Salem's Lot. Okay. 3 short books that I think I can handle. And these look like fun. It's nice just to go shopping in my own library, And then number 4, Wolf Moon. Speaking of Wolf Moon, I took a photo. I posted it on Instagram, but I'm going to post it here too if you want to check it out. I posted a photo of the Wolf Moon when I was walking the pups, whenever that was, 2 nights ago. And in the cemetery across from my house, there's this tree that looks like a man. And the cemetery, the lights from the cemetery illuminate this tree. And it was just a really nice picture, except for the telephone wire that I didn't edit out. I guess I could work on it a little bit, but isn't that cool? I love going out and seeing the full moon. It just puts me in a great mood. So, and Matilda too. Anyway, watch a werewolf film. So I thought I would watch The Howling to go with the book. And I probably watched that back in the day, but I don't really remember it. And then watch a horror sequel is number 5. Well, Alex had mentioned watching Scanners 2, and I love Scanners 1, so I'm going to try to find Scanners 2, and maybe I can watch it with her. I don't know, I'll check through the Discord for all of the different rules and regulations. Not that there are many, but maybe we can coordinate a group watch would be fun. So I will link her video below so you can get more information about that. So last night I was just going through Shudder looking for a horror movie to watch, something along the lines of this sleepover weekend, some kind of 80s horror slasher fare, and I watched the House on Sorority Row, which was great. I think I remember watching that. I might have even seen it in the drive-in or something when it came out, but I had not seen that movie in years. And I was just impressed with this movie. I'd forgotten how good it is. It is kind of your typical setup with a bunch of sorority sisters, the different types. You have, I guess she would be called the final girl, is like the good girl, the cute, smart, but not too sexy, good girl type, I'll call her. And then you have a variety of others, the bookish one, maybe like the tomboyish one, the dumb airhead blonde, and kind of the slutty one. It's all of the array of different types of young women that can be murdered. It kind of has an homage to one of my favorite French films, Diabolique, and some other things that were pretty good. I mean, yeah, it's familiar territory, but I thought it was really well done. So if you have Shudder, you might want to check that out. And speaking of sorority horror, I'm sure I'm not the only one who's been obsessively following this true crime case in Idaho. Wow, that whole thing is just crazy, and I've been obsessively reading all the updates on the case. Well, around New Year's Day, right before New Year's, I think they arrested the suspect. I'm not going to call him the killer. He's still a suspect. But they have a lot of evidence on this guy. And of course, it's horrible. It's so horrible, but I'm happy for the families to get some justice. And it will be interesting to see how this progresses as a trial. And not only that, where he went to school in Pennsylvania is not that far from where I live. And a friend of mine knows the professor who taught him in his graduate program in criminology, who's written all these books about the criminal mind. And some people are coming back at her like, well, what? Didn't she notice that there was a potential mass murder in her class? Like, as if anyone would know that. So, so I know I'm not the only one following that case, and I've been watching all kinds of true crime YouTube stuff about that. Because of that, I haven't been as involved in BookTube lately. So I'm glad I'm doing the Scary Sleepover weekend to get me back into it. And so that's about what I've been doing. So let's move on to the VC Andrews stuff. Now, I'm excited because there is going to be a new Lifetime series. This time, it's going to be the Dawn series, the Cutler series. For some reason, I always call it the Dawn series. It's easier to remember it that way. That was one of my favorite series, so I'm very excited that is going to be made into a Lifetime movie. The last Lifetime movie, the Flowers in the Attic origin, was amazing. In fact, I've been wanting to rewatch that. I have high hopes for this. Heather Mills, who looks amazing, I have to say. She's got to be up there, and she looks beautiful. Fran Drescher, of course, is fabulous. So definitely looking forward to that. I don't know what date it's coming out yet, and I don't know if there's been a trailer out, but I'll be there. I'll be watching it, and I'll do a review about it. But let's get into the next one. This is the Orphans series. So let's go. So this series came out in 1998, and then the Orphans Omnibus, the book that brings all the stories together, came out in 2000. This is my first time reading this series. The Orphan series focuses on the lives of the 4 teenage orphans: Janet, also called Butterfly, she was one of my favorite characters, Crystal, Brooke, and Raven, who were sent to the Lakewood House foster home, and their subsequent escape in the full-length conclusion, Runaways. Each of the 4 mini-books focuses on the events that lead each girl to the Lakewood House foster home. Released over the summer of 1998, the Orphan series marked the first mini-series written under the Andrews name and the first departure from the usual series structure of the previous 5 series. An omnibus edition of the first 4 novels was released in 2000, and the original mini books were subsequently taken out of print. If you have the mini books, good on you, because they're probably collector's items. I think I have some duplicates of the series. I know I have several of the Runaways book that is the conclusion. So I might be doing a VC Andrews extra book giveaway at some point this year. That would be fun. Kind of get me back into it, because I do miss reading the series. I do plan to read the entire series. It just, it takes a while to read all these books. They're beautifully illustrated, the covers and the back covers. It doesn't have the step back cover, but it kind of looks like it does. A lot of the VC Andrews books, some of them have a step back cover, and then you'll see another that is just has sort of the fake one. But the back covers have a beautiful illustration of each of the girls. Each story focuses on a different character, but it follows pretty much exactly the same formula. When we start with Butterfly, I forget the name of the mother, I don't know if it's important, or the stepmother is a former ballerina who had an accident and she's in a wheelchair. So now we have a wheelchair character, which is a theme of every VC Andrews series that I've read so far. I don't know if that's true across the board, but I'm pretty sure that there have been many wheelchair-bound characters. And she sees this adorable butterfly. I just love the picture. She sees in her this grace. And even though she likes to dance, but she's not a trained dancer. So she's going to adopt her. And the husband is kind of just, every one of these husbands, and at least in the first 4 books, are just kind of mostly a little milquetoast in that they let their wives get what they want. They want to turn this girl into what they never could be, and for whatever reason, and the husband goes along with it, and they're a little dull, the husbands. But Butterfly, this is a sad one. She gets adopted. She starts her ballet training, and the stepmother starts becoming obsessed with turning her into this ballerina. It's sort of like the Red Shoes, she has to dance and dance and dance. Don't stop dancing. And the poor child is exhausted, trying to please step-parents and get the love she never had. Well, none of it works out. She ends up in this group home at the end, this Lakewood house. So that's Butterfly's story. Then we go on to Crystal, who is and I like this picture of her. She's a very no-nonsense girl, very smart. She wants to be a scientist, but her stepmother is just this loopy gal who all she wants to do is watch TV soap operas all day. And she talks about these stories like they're real. Of course, I watched General Hospital and One Life to Live from the very beginnings. And all my children, okay, I'm showing my age here. I do remember the Luke and Laura wedding in General Hospital. And you have to understand, at that time, there was no internet. There was no pull up a YouTube video on your phone. In my household, we didn't have cable TV. There were 3 channels, ABC, CBS, and NBC, and then UHF we could get in the attic if one of us held on to the antenna. I kid you not, that was it. And my friends and I would, as teenagers, would watch General Hospital religiously at someone's house after school when we didn't have play practice or something. And the whole Luke and Laura marriage was it was as big as Harry and Meghan, That's a whole other story. I've been sort of obsessing over that story too. But I had a life beyond the soap operas, let me say. Just, I'm not like this stepmother. So poor Crystal, it doesn't work out. And she ends up in Lakewood House. And then we move on to Brooke. Brooke was one of my favorite characters too. I like that illustration because she's wearing this fancy pageant dress and she couldn't look more miserable. There's Brooke's cover. So Brooke's stepmother, of course, she gets adopted too. And they're all around the same age. I don't know, 14. Some of them may be a little older. I think maybe Butterfly's the youngest. Her mother wants is very wealthy. Her stepmother, step-parents, super wealthy, wants her to be a pageant beauty queen like her. Kind of a little John Benet Ramsey vibe going on, like she wants to dress her up and do her hair. And because you need a talent to be in a beauty contest, she makes her obsessively play the piano, even though she has no talent for it. She's a jock. She wants to play sports, but oh my gosh, the mother's, you can't play sports because you'll get freckles in the sun and you'll skin your knees. What are you doing? So there's this major conflict, and it ends with this very dramatic episode straight out of Mommy Dearest. And I really like this one. And of course, she has a very sad ending too, and then she ends up at the same place. Then we come to Raven. She was one of my favorite characters. She may be the first non-white character we've had in a V.C. Andrews series. Now, I might be wrong, but Raven is Latina. She is stunningly beautiful, and she has a talent for singing. Her background is her mother's really poor and has some drug abuse problems. So she actually ends up with a relative, an aunt and uncle. And the uncle starts doing some pretty sleazy stuff, including, pulling down her panties and spanking her when she's like 15. No, not cool. We see some echoes of the original V.C. Andrews stuff in each one of these stories. This one, for whatever reason, had me crying at the end. I mean, I was sobbing. It was so good. So as much as I went into this series thinking, oh, this is for like kids, I'm not going to get into it. I, again, really, really dug it. Really dug it. And I just aesthetically, and I'll try to take close-ups of all these, really, really stunning stuff. And I'm glad I have them. And then finally, the conclusion is in a longer novel, and it has the step back cover. I have several of these, like I said. And you see the evil foster parents and then all of the different characters. This one is told through Brooke, I believe. It was a few weeks since I read it, point of view. So they are in a bad situation at this foster home. The people took them in just for the money from the state. They don't take care of them. It's miserable. They have no way out. So they decide, which is pretty ballsy if you think about it, to steal the stepfather's car. And he's abusive, and the mother is just sort of dominated by this man. So we have this, the abusive male archetype. So they decide to drive. I think they're in New York State, like upstate New York. They drive across country. Well, that's the plan, to find Brooke's mother in California. Actually, I wasn't that wild about the conclusion, the road trip. It wasn't really that interesting, except when they picked up this hitchhiker who is this real tough girl, and she kind of teaches them some lessons. So the whole process of their trip, they get into all kinds of trouble. It was a little nail-biting a few times, and they learn some lessons, hard lessons about life, but most importantly, they learn to depend on each other. They're sisters, and they do this little chant, we're sisters, and I forget how it goes. And they take care of little Butterfly, who's got some issues with, her trauma, but they're all really sweet girls, and they're really, like, I got a sense of this comradeship between these young women. I think this would be an excellent series for like middle grade or early teens going into teenage. I mean, anybody, of course, can read it and enjoy it. But I think if you have like girls or boys, anyone can enjoy it. That age from like 12, even like a little younger, 12 to, I don't know what the middle grade technical, the age range is, but maybe like 12 to 14. This would be a perfect series for that age group. So I'm going to continue with the next series, which is set up in a similar way. So I expect it to be very formulaic. The Wildflower series is what it is. I expect it to be very formulaic, and I'm prepared for that. So I will read the whole series and report back as usual. So let me know if you've read the Orphans series, and also if you plan to participate in the Scary Sleepover Weekend. I would love to hear your thoughts. So that's all I have for today. Thanks for stopping by my haunted library, and I'll see you soon. Bye!